Channel 5 Network. This is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. This week on the show, we welcome the fourth of Nashville's 7 mayoral candidates to join us for a one-on-one, in-depth interview to talk about their campaigns and about how they see the future of Nashville. Our guest today is Charles Robert Bone. Charles Robert, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we begin each conversation with the same question. One fundamental question: why are you running for mayor?
I'm running for mayor. It's a two-part answer. One is I affirmatively want to see us keep the momentum of Nashville going. I want to see us keep that, be intentional about that momentum, but at the same time recognize that not everybody has benefited the same, and that there are lots of families and lots of communities that have yet to see that momentum, yet to see that prosperity and that economic opportunity. I think the next mayor can say we're going to be bold enough to keep the momentum going, but responsible enough to diversify that prosperity.
You've been active in the law and politics. That came from your family. You and your father both have been very active in politics, but more in fundraising than being as candidates.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you decided you wanted. Now, you've been a candidate once before. You were a candidate for State House against
Diane Black.
Now Diane Black,
1998. Yeah. So I've tried to put that far. That was what, 16, 17, 18 years ago. So
what did you learn from that makes you a better candidate this time?
You know what's interesting? I really learned two things. One is you can't become captive to the ups and downs of a race, right? You got to kind of lop off the top and lop off the bottom. It is a marathon, not a sprint. It kind of moves from day to day. But also the interesting thing is you have people that you think are friends and associates that would do anything for you, and sometimes you're disappointed. But what overwhelms that more than anything is the people who you meet along the way or come out and say, let me tell you what you did for me and you didn't realize 10 years ago, or your family did, and that step up and help you. That is just overwhelmingly helpful.
Now, as a candidate, you've gotten very high marks in many of the debates and mayoral forums about your ready grasp of facts and figures, and you seem to be able to recite them almost on demand. How did you manage to assimilate that kind of ability?
Well, my wife says I think in spreadsheets. I think that's probably not a fair.
Sounds boring.
Probably not a fair characterization of me. Somebody asked the other day, "Is there anything you'd like to correct the record on?" I said, "Well, I would. I'm actually a fun guy. You know, I don't think in spreadsheets." But when I approach any problem, just like whether it's in business or part of my legal practice, I kind of have to get the facts and the figures to understand the context for it. And so whether you're talking transit, whether you're talking about education, whether you're talking about affordable housing, I don't think any of the solutions for any of those are easy, but I think we can begin to make the response simple and practical, and I think you got to have the stats and the figures and the data to understand that.
Now, you say your priorities as mayor, getting into numbers, and this is 1 and 1A you put as education and infrastructure. Sure. Why pick those two?
Well, I just think as we turn the page the next 8 years, we're not going to do another $1 billion worth of capital investment in downtown Nashville. May not do it again in my lifetime, but certainly I think as we turn that page, we are going to have the opportunity to continue to invest in ourselves and continue to invest in other parts of the city and other parts of the county. And when I think about infrastructure, I think our population and demand for services is here, and our infrastructure today is probably here. And I think the challenge for the next mayor is not only to raise that infrastructure to where population and demand for services is, but with the population that we know is coming, take that 2 or 3 steps forward.
Your tagline on education is "Every child matters," but on your website, and most of what you talk about in terms of education are after-school programs or other things outside the classroom, which is, you say, is 80% of the time.
Sure. That
they're spending anyway. Only 20% in the classroom, but you don't mention the 20% much at all. Why not?
Well, and I think there's 2 places in this conversation. One is I want to do everything I can to help the school system. Also recognize that we've made some significant strides over the last several years, but we've got a lot more work to do. In the classroom, I think it's certainly about making sure that we have the very best teachers. We hire 850 teachers every year. That's the turnover in Metro. I think that gives us a great opportunity.
But you don't run the schools. The mayor does not run the schools.
The mayor does not run the school system, but I see my role as being a partner with the school system and helping them. So whether that's helping attract and retain great teachers, or also pushing the community conversation and pushing the expectations about 3rd to 8th grade literacy or college attainment, I think is a big piece of that.
Now, being a partner with the schools, the biggest partnership is usually with the director of schools.
Yes,
and
sir.
Metro's in the process of selecting a new director. Dr. Register is leaving next week. Given that unique relationship, are you concerned that the school board is going ahead and picking somebody probably within the next month and not involving the new mayor because we don't know who that is yet. Is that a mistake?
Well, I think certainly the board and the search firm has tried to keep the mayoral candidates up to date, and they've invited us as a part of that process to give input. Certainly my personal bias and preference would have been that we wait, but that's the school board's decision to make, and I'm confident that they'll have the ability to pick the right person. We'll know in the next couple of weeks the caliber of the finalists and the pool that they've gotten, and this may work out just fine. If not, we'll have to drop back and relook at it.
Were you okay about the selection for interim director?
Yeah, I didn't have an opinion on that. Certainly, Dr. Steele has done a great job here.
You may be working with that person for the first year if you're mayor.
Absolutely, and I've got a lot of respect for what Dr. Steele has done and appreciate what he's done here.
Are you a supporter of charter schools like Mayor Dean? Do you believe they have their role? Should we continue to increase the numbers, or is there a finite number of charter schools that we need in our system?
I'm for outcomes. And so however we can get there, that's what I'm for. I've said today, if our position as a city and my position as mayor is we want higher performing schools faster, I can't ignore the results of charter schools, but I think we also have to keep in context that that's 7% of our kids today. And at the same time, while we can't ignore those results, I can't ignore the other 75,000 kids, 60,000 of which qualify for free and reduced lunch, 45,000 of which don't read and score at grade level, and 20,000 of which don't speak English as their first language. I don't think we're going to get there talking about just charter schools, but certainly I want to be helpful in that conversation.
And transportation, you talk about an 18-month plan to deal with traffic congestion and an 18-year plan to deal with long-term regional issues. Let's start with the 18-month plan. What's the immediate things you need to do, and obviously pretty quickly if you're going to get it done in 18 months?
I think we've got to make the current system we have, the current bus system, as efficient and as dependable as we possibly can. I think you're going to see several recommendations that come out of the new MTA strategic plan. It's my hope and expectation is that we'll break that down corridor by corridor, recognizing that each corridor is different. Charlotte Pike looks a lot different than Nolensville Road, which has 4 of the 17 busiest intersections in the city. I see, as I tried to ride the bus from my house to downtown, riding the bus is the easy part. It's getting to the bus, waiting on the bus, that's the most difficult part. I have to go 9/10 of a mile from my house to the nearest bus stop. I go across 4 streets, none of which have a sidewalk. It takes me 19 minutes to walk it, about 10 minutes to wait on the bus, and then a 30-minute bus ride. Riding the bus is the easy part. Getting there is the hard part.
Charles Robert Bone is our guest. He's a candidate for mayor in the August election. We'll continue our conversation with him after you watch these messages.